Welcome to Uncoached, a podcast for volunteer coaches and parents figuring out youth sports as we go. Each episode, we keep things simple, 5 questions to talk about practical insights that you can actually use with your youth athletes. My guest today is Morgan Schill. She's the founder of the Positive Play Project, which is aimed at creating positive youth sports experiences that go beyond the scoreboard. I don't want to give too much away, but she's a former college athlete, she's a coach, and most importantly, she's a mom. So, Morgan, thanks so much for being here. Would you do me the honor of talking to me about yourself and the Positive Play Project? What prompted you to start that?
Sure. Yeah. You mentioned all of those things that I am and I do. My kids are still fairly young. So my oldest is only 8. So we're just kind of in the thick of getting into this crazy sports world. But yeah, I think it was pretty apparent quite early the challenges that youth sports are having across the board in rec and on all levels. I coach both club and rec, so I've seen from that aspect of it. And I think youth sports were such an impact in my life, made such a positive impact in my life, and I truly would not be where I am or who I am without them. And so I wanted to create a place where some of these tough questions or discussions could happen and I could maybe share some insight from a different perspective. But more than anything, I think just there's a lot of good people out there who I think are thinking similar things and want things to be better and different. And so, yeah, wanted to create a place that they can come together and start rowing in that direction. And it's been a really awesome response to see all of the wonderful, nice things people have shared and advice that they've asked. And I think we all want this to be better. I just got to figure out how to get there.
Yeah, there's no shortage of negative. So I think this environment that we're in, I think we overlap a lot in what both of us are trying to do in this arena. And I think it's needed and I think it's fantastic. So kudos to you for starting this. If somebody's listening or viewing that's not following one of us, let's say, where can they go to find out more about you, more about Positive Play Project? Give me some contact information here.
Sure. I think most of my content starts on Instagram. So Positive Play Project is the handle. I think it's been a great outlet for sharing a lot of information. As I kind of got into it, I was wishing I had a place to share a little bit longer form content where we could kind of share my thoughts in a more robust way. So we also have a Substack, which is the same Positive Play Project, and most of all of that's free articles. So just a little bit more information there. I'm also on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook, although less as engaged in those platforms, but want to be available wherever I meet someone where they're at. So yeah, and then I'm working on a lot of things behind the scenes of creating some resources and courses and other things. So more to come on that. But I would say most importantly, Instagram and then Substack for a little longer form.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully we'll get into those longer form thoughts here a little bit too. But there is no shortage of work that you can do here, right? Like this environment we're in, it seems like it needs a lot of support. And that's, I started too, right? Like as a volunteer coach, and I'm a lot like you, where I've got club teams that I coach and rec teams that I coach. And in both environments, there's volunteer coaches and parents that are helping their kids, and there's just not a lot of resources out there. And so I think the more that we can put out there for them, the better it'll be.
Sure. Agreed.
So when you look at youth sports today, what's something that adults have kind of normalized that you think is actually hurting kids?
There's a few things I think we could choose from for this topic, but I think what stands out the most for that is how we've shifted youth sports into thinking about it like a job or like a product pipeline that we're trying to create this outcome, by kids. This is like win at all costs type pressure. I think that's partly because of this focus on specializing much younger and travel schedules that feel so much more intense than when I was playing a long time ago. And so I think when you see that fun be replaced by high expectations, and not that I'm good with high expectations, but in absence of fun with those, or I think that's what we're seeing, this burnout and this higher rate of dropout, anxiety, and it just kind of takes the whole joy out of the experience. And so, I think we've got to get back to thinking about sports as like the whole person and with the true intent of what it is about, and not only thinking about those performance and the outcomes as like why we're doing youth sports, in the first place.
For sure. I mean, you get this idea of like a player's like just kind of number or piece that you move around within an organization. This player's good. We're going to put them on the premier team. This player's not. We're going to put them down a division. Taking into consideration who that kid is, what kind of team they've built, what kind of environment they're surrounded by. I think we lose that a lot.
Yeah, and that the whole intent of why we're all there is can't only be to like win trophies at the end of the day. Like that will only get us so far, right? And so I feel like when I am coaching a team, if like it's fun to win, like I get it, and a lot of people get up in arms about the lack of focus on winning, and it's not to take away from that. You can be competitive and fun at the same time, but if all I did was win trophies as a coach, like really that would not fulfill my cup or what my purpose that I think coaches out there to do. And so it's so much deeper than just the scoreboard.
Yeah, for sure. And when I think about the questions I'll ask guests, I like to think about what I would say too. I literally wrote down one word to this, and the word is tournaments. Like we're so tournament heavy today.
Yes.
In our environment. It's like every weekend there's a tournament. You're chasing a trophy all the time. It's like, where's like, I think you touched on it, right? It's business, right? They're trying to earn money, trying to generate some revenue for these sites. But I think adults just emphasizing this tournament style play all the time kind of hurts our environment for youth sports.
Yeah, I think the games are certainly like still a place to learn and grow, but like the off season, the practice, like that's where the real skill development, and I think a lot of those relationships and like the ability to be comfortable trying new things and failure and growth can really like happen in those, not in the spotlight moments. And then sure, you take that out and see, how much you've grown, and take what you aren't doing well and back to the off season. But yeah, it seems like when it's all year round and so much intense pressure every weekend, we've lost the ability for that like development to happen.
For sure. And I know we're touching on this a little bit, but there's a lot of parents and coaches that they say they want kids to love sports longer term. I know some of this feeds into that, but why do you think there's so many athletes that eventually stop playing? I think there's a metric out there that, hey, by 12 or 13, right, you see a lot of kids drop off from the sport that they love to play. Talk about some things you think are feeding into that.
I think there's a few kind of like coming at it from multiple angles, but I think that at the heart of it is it's just not fun anymore from them and their kids. Like, why am I going to do this if it's not fun? And I think as adults, we should be able to understand that better and like align with it better. Like, I don't want to do things that aren't particularly fun for me either. And I'm certainly not going to do it with no real reason to be doing it, especially as a kid. And so I think the type of environment that we've created, the pressure and not being good enough type of environment, is making kids like not want to do this anymore. I think that the lack of access for some kids, that there's not as many opportunities to play in a rec league, or feeling like they need to be forced into those hyper competitive environments, contributes to that also. But yeah, at the heart of it is I just don't think they're having as much fun as it should be. And yeah, so they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think as parents and coaches, we could all help our youth athletes a little bit more with the year-round play too.
Yes.
There's so much. I know you mentioned specializing, but just doing the same sport all year long without having a little bit of seasonality to, hey, there's a start date and an end date to this. And in between there, I've got a break where I can do something else. I have some freedom. Maybe it's just a flat out break. But I think parents need to start putting their foot down a little bit more and say, hey, we're not going to do this year round. And I think coaches need to support that, and club environments need to support that too. I don't know how you feel about that.
For sure. When I was playing in college, I distinctly remember once school was out and we were a fall sport. I was a volleyball player. So we had the summer to, it was training to go back to preseason. So it wasn't like you weren't off, but I took 2 full weeks once school was out. Like finals were over, practices were done. We went home, and I just remember, like, I looked forward to those 2 weeks so much. And I was still a kid, but I was a grown up for all intensive purposes. Like, these kids are significantly much younger than that. They're not professional, they're not college athletes, they're not professional athletes. Like, they need breaks. Their bodies are growing, mentally they need time to do other things. And I think, to me, like, the biggest red flag is if my kids wanted to play in a league and they were strict about them missing tournaments or playing other sports or playing on a school team. Like, that is a hard no for us. I think that it would be very difficult to have a healthy environment for a kid if those are guidelines and rules that they're putting in place.
Yeah, for sure. I think I like your perspective there. Like, you look forward to that time off. I think it's needed. And I think parents need to maybe not let their kid take the lead on whether they want to play or not year round. Cause I think the younger kids, I've got a 10-year-old, he wants to play all the time. And I feel like I want to slow him down and say, hey, there's a time for you to break, do something else. Let's go play. You can play another sport. You can do something different. But like, I think long term, I want you to take a break now so that you're just not so focused on this thing. And then you burn out by 13, 14.
Yeah. I think that that's an interesting side of it too. Is like, it's not always the parents that are pushing. Kids are excited. They're good. They love what they're doing. But I think you said it, like, we're the grown-ups. Like, we're the parent. Like, we're in charge, and it's our job to keep our kids safe and happy and healthy. And so, with guidance, like, sure, if you want to, go play catch on the side of the house with dad, like, great. We can still get our reps in and have fun with the sport, but it doesn't have to be so organized and intense all the time.
For sure. And you touched on this a second ago, and I love the way you talked about it, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into it. This idea of balancing kind of coaching hard, or let's say this, hey, I want to win type of mentality versus having fun. Like, my perspective is you can be focused on winning and have fun and create a good environment. I don't think wanting to win is a bad thing. I think that's a great goal to have in mind. But if that's the only thing you're evaluating your team against, I think that's where it gets dangerous. And I just wonder your perspective on this balance of win and coaching hard versus having fun.
Sure. I think it's a hard balance, especially for kids. And I think as adults, like, being in charge of that environment, it certainly has to be, like, super intentional. And I'm an athlete. Like, I'm super competitive. Yeah. I want to win. Don't get, like, at everything. Like, I don't care if we're playing Monopoly or, like, pickup game up front. Like, it's innate in me, that desire, that high drive for win. But I can also, I think, understand that that can be the goal, but it can't be the only goal. And it can't be, like, the only thing, the filter that we're using to make decisions with, right? As a coach specifically, yes, I want to win this game because that's fun. And I'm here that's as a game, right? That you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Yeah. You're always going to try to win. But I think that, developing your players, teaching them great sportsmanship, learning how to be a good teammate, learning how to fail. You can't win every single game. And I remember my son was on a team last year and they were undefeated. And I was like, I almost hope that they don't win their last couple games, because what a great, the lessons and the learnings from that would be so much more significant than taking it all the way. And I think they needed a little, like, humbling to be, that's, like, a good thing for them. So, yeah. But I do think that having high standards and holding people accountable is a form of showing that you really care. Like, I talk a lot about feedback and being able to have that tough conversation or challenge somebody when they're not performing as well as that they can, or being as good as, showing up on time or being nice to their teammates, like, fill in the blank. It doesn't mean, to me, like, having fun is not lowering standards. To me, like, the standards are what they are, what you set as the leader of a team. And I think, like, how you go about that, enforcing those, and the type of environment and culture that you create is where it becomes fun. Being humble in the wins, being humble in the losses, like, not only focusing on the outcome. Yes, we lost today. Brad hit his first home run. Like, what an amazing, we've been working on that for the last month in practice. And so let's celebrate that. Or, even when somebody struck out, everybody came out and gave them a high five. Like, that makes me super proud of you guys. It can be so much more than just, the win.
Yeah, you need those small things along the way that, it's helped building them up individually. It's helped building the team environment up a little bit more. You're right. It's more than just the ultimate win. It's you've been working on hitting. You got a home run. You made a pass that was awesome, whatever it is.
Yep. And I always think about it like at the end of a season, like there can only be one team that ultimately wins it, right? If we're going to play like a 2 tournament, someone's going to win. So does that mean that everyone else is having a terrible experience? Like,
Right.
the math just doesn't work for that. So sure, it's fun, and everyone hopefully has their chance to be, on the winning side of whatever, it is that they're doing. But the majority of people who play in are not going to be the ultimate winners. So it can't just be about that, or what does everybody else really, everyone else just failed? Like, that doesn't feel like that's the right thing.
No, I think you're right on. And there's big emotions with these kids too. I've got a group of, again, my 10-year-old son at our club team, a little bit like your season. We were undefeated going into our last game. And we wound up losing, and that's, that happens. But the kids were, man, 4 or 5 of them were crying at the end. I hadn't seen that emotion come out of them yet. And so it was eye-opening for me, but I think it was eye-opening for them too. And instead of downplaying that cry, I think we handled it the right way by saying, "Hey, it's okay. You're showing me you care, and I love that." Right? And this is how we need to release that emotion of having a loss. Then let's do it. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, what a gift that you
Right.
found something you're so passionate about that you wanted so, so badly. Not everybody has that or cares, that much. And so certainly it's okay to be disappointed. And I think it's wonderful that you shared that or allowed that emotion to be there, because we've had experiences where that has not always been the case. And it's a hard thing to kind of see adults, interact with kids in such a not positive.
Yeah, I don't think you want to shut them down when you've got that happening, because it's going to, I don't know, they're going to bottle it up next time, or it's going to come out the wrong way, I think. Speaking of this, what is something you have seen a coach or parent do or say that's kind of completely changed the emotional tone of a team, either for the positive or for the negative?
Yeah, man. I wanted to share like a positive example, but I think most of the time, unfortunately, like we're seeing it more prevalently where it's a negative situation. And so part of the reason why I started or was like moved to start Positive Play Project was, again, my son had an interesting couple years of basketball experience. And I think basketball is an interesting sport at youth because you're inside and it's like usually very tight, small gyms. And so I think everything is amplified and intense anyway. But we had a situation where the parents ended up the cops were called. There was a physical health. It was like insane. And I was like, what's happening here? And similarly, during that same season, they had lost a game and their coach was, I think, having a hard time controlling their own emotions about the feelings of it. And it was just like how the coach responds in those moments of stress, like getting louder and yelling or showing their frustration. Like the kids are already, the kids don't want to lose. I said this in like everybody wants to win, especially kids. Like that's like innate in them.
Yeah.
For most kids, I think. And so it's not that they're not trying and so I think that in that moment, it was just like a lack of self-awareness of understanding like how my behavior and what I'm saying or what I'm doing is impacting not only my own kids, but like now the entire gym is feeling this tension and that doesn't need to be there. And so I think, it's just that I talk about a lot about emotional intelligence, like understanding how my behavior and what I'm saying and doing or the look on my face affects those around me, certainly as a coach to my own athletes, but also I think as a coach, you're a leader in this gym environment. Like I feel like when I'm coaching, if my parents are acting a certain way, like I feel responsible, or at least I want to be leading in a way that they can model. Like I want them to behave in a similar way that I am. And so I think, it's just that ability to understand how in those tough moments, like, take a beat and respond in a way that you feel good about and that you want your kids to look at you and feel that you would want them to respond in a similar way.
I think it's weird the amount of influence a coach probably has over parents, like you're saying.
Yep.
Usually you're thinking about the kids on your team and how you're impacting them. Maybe you're thinking about that. I hope you are.
Yes.
But you're spot on, because I've seen it with, my son's baseball team where the coach starts yelling at the umpire and then things get a little bit more rowdy and the parents are like, okay, well, I feel like I'm right and justified by saying this out loud to the umpire. And then it's just like the whole situation gets tense. It's really cringy. And it's like, what are we doing here? These kids are 10 or 9. Like, are we really going to argue about strikes and balls right now? Or, can we let them play and just have some fun?
Right. And I think when things don't go your way or you don't get the call that you want or something feels unfair, the lesson, like the kids are looking to, certainly the coach, but the parents to understand, like, what do we do in this situation? Because it's not going to be the last time that happens to them. And so, like, to me, that's such a responsibility of leading by example and setting the tone for like how you want the season to go and how you want these kids to respond to these types of things far beyond when we leave this field today. So yeah, I think that you're right. The coach really has a lot of responsibility and opportunity, I think, to set the tone.
Maybe a side quest question.
Sure.
I'd love your perspective on how you approach refs and bad calls. I can tell you mine, and what I do with my team is I literally have told them, like, let's ignore the ref. Like, they are part of the game, not be rude. So when I say ignore them, don't be rude to them, but it's part of the game. They're going to miss you getting chipped down from behind. They're going to miss you getting hit. They're going to miss all kinds of things. I am not the kind of person that's going to start chirping at a ref for those things. I don't want them to do that, right? I want them to just keep playing. And if something happens and the ref makes a call, then that's what happens. That's part of the game. So I'm interested how do you coach your kids to, I don't know, deal with bad calls or refs or umps?
Yeah, I think my message is always like, control the things that we can control. That's all we can do. It is my job as the coach to communicate and understand where a ref was maybe coming from. That is absolutely, and I will communicate that back to you guys. Like, you take your direction from me. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter what level. Like, I'm a super big hockey fan, and we've been watching I think the Avalanche got some tough calls going their way in these last few games, right? Every level, it's not going to go your way sometimes, but you can control how you respond. You can control what you do on the next play. Sure, it's disappointing when things don't go your way, and sometimes it's going to go your way and it's not going to go the way of the other team. So that's it's out of our hands. But yes, sportsmanship, I have 3 rules for my kids, which when we play is that we have fun, we try our best, and we're good sportsmen, and that sportsmanship to each other, to the other team, and absolutely to the refs. And so, that's like a deal breaker for me. We're respectful. They're humans. People are going to make mistakes. They're trying their best. They're here, volunteering their time or for very minimal amount of pay to give you guys the opportunity to be able to play here today. So. Yeah.
That's good. I like your 3 words. I also use 3 words, and it forms the word EAT: effort, attitude, and teamwork. Those are the things that similarly align to yours. But man, I drive that home to my team all the time. That's our chance, when we come in and we kick things off. So I love the approach of kind of simplifying that down for them and having 3 key words.
Yeah.
So tell me this, if a volunteer coach or a parent came to you and said, hey, I genuinely want to create a better environment for my team, but I don't know exactly how to go about this, where would you tell them to start?
Yeah, I think in all areas of life, and I don't think coaching is immune to this, that communication to me is always the problem and it's always the solution. Mm-hmm. So I think getting really clear for yourself about what success looks like for this season or this team. And once you have that clarity of what you really want to achieve in what we're doing here, I think communicating that out effectively to not only your players, but the parents so that they can be advocates and that we're all, working on the same thing. I think it's an interesting dynamic between coaches and parents these days, but when it's done, I think it's such an opportunity for everybody to be on the same page and to be refocusing on this, when things are hard or where things are going well, like that we're all speaking the same language and that the kids are hearing the same type of message. So I would tell them to just, one, for themselves, get really clear about what they want to do, what they're trying to do with this season or with this team, and then make sure it's communicated out really effectively and it's not all the parents are going to be like, okay, great, and just take it at face value. Like, it can be an open discussion, but sharing where you're coming from and your message and what you're looking to achieve and asking them to help support and get their buy-in, I think would set you up for a lot of more success and kind of get ahead of those challenges that may come as things get tougher throughout. Yeah, I think, and then with your team, like you said, having they're kids, right? They can't focus on anything for longer than a short amount of time. So being really clear about what we're doing here, how I know if I walk away at the end of the practice, how do I know that I did a great job? Being really clear in your communication with them of not only things for them to improve on, but things that they're doing really well. Yeah, I think communication is really at the root of all of the opportunities that we have.
It's powerful. I'll tell you what, like, I've been a coach and then, on the other side as a fan, for my kids, and the coaches that over communicate I feel like they've got a better environment around them because I think the parents their nerves are less high around things because they understand what the coach's goals are, what we're working on, the things that they're trying to drive with the team. And I think parents, they bring the parents along with them. And I think that's a good thing. I had recently a direct experience with this. Just we're working through tryouts for my club soccer team. And I made an effort this year to be very open and overly communicate with everybody that's registered to come out. And I actually found maybe a little bit of gold mine here because I've communicated so good and let them in behind the curtain to what we're doing that we've held a series of tryouts. And by the end, the parents had spread the word about the good communication and the things like that. This is what they've told me. And I thought it's really good. It's really good feedback to get that. And I thought it actually helped get more people interested into what you're doing because I think it is kind of rare to have a coach that actually communicates really, really well and brings people along the journey with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think in my other life, I work in HR mostly, and that's what my undergrad is in, my degree. And I've always believed that, like, in the absence of information, people will fill in the blank on their own. And it's always the worst case scenario that they're telling themselves in their head, right? So whether that's I just got pulled out and I'm sitting the bench next inning, like, I'm telling myself a story that's probably far worse than if my coach just acknowledged and had like a quick conversation. My parents probably feeling, doing the same. And so, yeah, I think the more you empower people to have the knowledge and clarity of like why we're making these decisions, what's going on, what my expectations are, the much easier it's going to be to have a great experience for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so bonus question here. If you could pick one thing that we could all do to help create a more positive environment for kids in their sports, what would that one thing be?
One thing. Yeah, I think that that's tough. There's so many things I would want to share. But I think if everyone took like just a moment to like truly pause and think about like self-reflection of like, how do I want to show up for my kid? How do I want to show up as a coach? What is truly most important here? And I know in like the moment when things emotions are flying and other parents are chirping, in those moments, it's really easy to get caught up in that. I know, like, I've been there. But I think like the intention of going into a season or joining a team or not joining a team, like whatever we're doing is to just like have a moment of clarity for yourself and like an alignment with your family and your kid and the coach. Like, what's the real purpose here? So when those tough moments show up, or my kid's riding the bench, or the other ref is missing the calls, like going back to that, take a second to pause and remember what we're all really doing here before it gets, escalated so quickly, I think could really change the type of environment that we're seeing at a lot of these games and events. I think there's a lot of things, but, maybe we start there and kind of build on it.
It's a really good answer. I did I did my one word thing. And so I wrote down smile. It seems corny and cheeseball, but like if you're a coach or a parent, smile. This is fun. You get the honor to watch your kid or a group of kids do something that they love to do, a game, right? At the end of the day, it's a game. So smile. It's contagious, right? Let them have fun and know that you're having fun.
Yes, agreed. These years fly by. I mean, I see it like my youngest is going to start kindergarten this year. I'm like, I don't know how we got to, I feel like you were just born and here we are already all going to be in like actual grade school. And they call them like the bleacher years, right? Where we're just getting the joy of watching these kids do what hopefully they love for a long time. Don't ruin that. Don't make it shorter than it needs to be because they quit because of the environment, and make it a memory and a time in your lives where you enjoyed time together doing something that your kids like fell in love with doing and they were passionate about. It's like you said, it's such a gift.
When I'm loading my car up like I'm going on a 3-week vacation for a 1-day baseball tournament and I've got everything packed in there and I'm sweating because it's so hot.
Yep.
I promise, I tell myself, okay, let's enjoy this because there's going to be one day where you're like, I wish I could go back and do this all over again.
What I wouldn't give to be loading up the car. Yep.
That's right. Keep it in perspective. That's our questions that we're going to go through today. I could probably talk to you for a couple more hours on all of this stuff. I thank you so much. I love Positive Play Project. I know I'm going to be following a lot more closely to the things that you're doing because I think there's a lot of growth and good success in your future. So thank you for being on. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time and getting a chance to be on here and talk with you as well.
This episode helped you. Share it with another coach or parent who's figuring it out too. You can find Uncoached in this episode wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch the episode on YouTube and make sure to follow the Coaching Dad on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. We'll see you next time on Uncoached.